K2 they call it the Savage Mountain. At 8,611 meters, it's the second highest peak on Earth, a pyramid of rock and ice that pierces the heavens. But its beauty is deceptive. It's not just a mountain, it's a test of human endurance and one of the deadliest places you can be. For decades, climbers have been drawn here by an intoxicating mix of allure, challenge, and pure obsession. But in August 2008, that obsession would collide with the mountain's brutal reality, leading to one of the worst disasters in the history of mountaineering. It all began as a season of hope at the base of the Great Peak. More than 30 climbers from across the globe had gathered. There were teams from Norway, South Korea, the Netherlands, Serbia, Pakistan, and more. They were all united by a single, audacious goal: to stand on top of K2. They had spent weeks acclimatizing, preparing their gear, and waiting, always waiting, for the notoriously brutal weather to break. Finally, the forecast for August 1st promised a brief window of opportunity. It was a narrow chance, a fleeting moment of calm in the otherwise violent atmosphere of the Karakoram. The decision was made.
This route looks challenging but doable.
The summit push was on. As dawn broke, the climbers were already high on the mountain, moving like tiny specks against a vast canvas of white. The air was incredibly thin, the cold a merciless force that seeped through every layer of clothing. They were now above 8,000 meters in the infamous death zone. Here the human body begins to shut down. There isn't enough oxygen to sustain life for long, and every single movement drains precious finite energy. Yet, driven by an unstoppable will, the teams pushed onward and upward, one by one, toward the summit. By late afternoon, 18 climbers had achieved their dream. They stood on top of K2, victorious and utterly exhausted. Gazing out at the world below, they were completely unaware that their descent, the journey back to safety, was about to transform into a desperate, terrifying nightmare. The most treacherous part of the descent from K2's summit is a feature known as the bottleneck. It's a narrow, steep couloir directly beneath a colossal, overhanging glacier, a frozen tower of ice called the Serek. The Serek is notoriously unstable, a sort of Damocles hanging over the only viable route down. It is, without a doubt, the most dangerous place on the entire mountain. And just after darkness fell on August 1st, disaster struck with unimaginable force. A deep, gut-wrenching rumble echoed across the slope. A huge section of the Serek had collapsed. The avalanche of ice and snow tore through the bottleneck, completely shearing away the fixed ropes that were the climbers' only lifeline, back to the lower camps. In a single, horrifying instant, the path to safety simply vanished. Several climbers were caught in the deluge and swept away to their deaths. The others, the ones who survived the initial impact, were now stranded. They were trapped high in the death zone, in total darkness, with no ropes, no clear direction, and rapidly diminishing strength. What followed was a descent into pure chaos. High on the mountain, in the freezing, oxygen-starved darkness, panic and confusion set in. Headlamps flickered like dying stars against the immense blackness of the slope. Shouts were lost in the howling wind. Some climbers, desperate to escape the death zone, attempted to descend blindly, forging new paths through the treacherous, unfamiliar ice. Others, realizing the extreme risk of moving in the dark, made the agonizing decision to stay put, to hunker down, and try to survive the night at over 8,200 meters, hoping for the first light of day. Frantic messages crackled over the radios at base camp. Some were garbled and distorted, Others were simply met with silence. As the hours ticked by, the grim reality became clear. This was no longer a mountaineering expedition. It was a brutal fight for survival. When the sun finally rose on August 2nd, its light revealed the full devastating scale of the tragedy. The mountain was now a tomb. 11 climbers were dead. They came from Norway, South Korea, France, Pakistan, Serbia, and Ireland. It was a staggering loss of life, the worst single catastrophe in K2's long and brutal history. The search and rescue efforts that followed were heroic, but they could only do so much. The survivors who made it back down carried with them not just physical frostbite and exhaustion, but deep, invisible wounds. They would carry the memories of that night and the haunting questions for the rest of their lives. How did so many skilled and experienced climbers get trapped so high on the mountain? Was it a cascade of poor coordination between the different teams? Was it just a case of terribly bad luck, or was it something else? Was it the mountain itself? K2 does not forgive mistakes. It doesn't care about ambition or experience. Every summit attempt here demands a price, paid in sweat, in fear, and sometimes in blood. Every climber who sets foot on its formidable slopes knows this fundamental truth. In the end, the mountain decides who gets to come home. This was the 2008 K2 disaster, the day the savage mountain reminded the world, with terrifying finality, exactly how it earned its name. Thank you for watching this story. If you found this documentary meaningful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel for more stories from the world's most extreme environments. Your support helps us continue to share these important histories. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.